Hello everyone and happy Saturday to you. Welcome to my channel. This is Sherry and today I am working on a project for the SNL design team, and this is for our Saturday stash dive, and today we are talking all about stencils. And so I'm going through some of my stencils there that I have in my stash, and so we're going to be using stencils today on the layout that I'm working on. And so I'm starting with this photo of my grandson. I'm going to be doing a layout on him. Surprise, I know. I do that all the time. But I'm really excited because I think this was actually a great topic for me. I was so glad that this I fell on this week that we were doing stencils, because I love working with stencils, and there are so many different things that you can do with stencils. And so I'm going to be trying to show you as much as I can. There's a few different techniques that you can use stencils for. I have several different kinds. I have, Studio Calico, Heidi Swap, My Favorite Things, Hero Arts, I think. I have some from Recollections, from Michael's. They have some. Stencils are just so readily available in all different designs. So I love to use stencils. They're great for layering and great to just give another artistic edge. And so what I'm doing here is I started out with my cardstock, and I just spread a thin layer of gesso over it so that I can begin working on that. And what I'm going to use for the first layer here on my background is this huge Sunburst from Heidi Swap. I've had this for some time, but I've never actually used it, and so I thought it would be fun to use it on this layout because my grandson has, in the photo, he's wearing sunglasses, so I'm titling this Future So Bright. So I thought it would be fun to use the sun rays. So I'm using this. It is a 12 by 12 stencil. And so what I'm going to do is a technique using ink. And I'm just using some inexpensive, makeup sponges like you can get at, your Target or dollar store, and just little triangular sponges. And I'm just dabbing them on the ink pads, and then I'm just spreading them. So I don't have a lot of those ink, what do you call them, the ink dabbers or ink spreaders from Tim Holtz, and so I don't have a lot of those, like one for every color and all that, and these are like newer ink pads, so I just use the sponges. They work great, and I like them because I can just throw them away when I'm finished, and they're so inexpensive, it's not really a big deal to me. So and they work great for what I want, because I want just a soft, kind of a soft color, and of course you can get a strong color, deep color with them as well. So I'm just kind of rubbing those. I started off in the center with the orange, and I'm kind of spreading out to the yellow, and I'm kind of smoothing those together a little bit in the center where that graduates to the yellow. And so that's my base that I'm starting with right there, using the inks. That's just straight ink from the ink pad. So that's one thing you can do with your stencils, is just use ink on them. And then what I'm going to do is I wanted to add some more layers of color, so I'm going to just dab a few spots around, and I'm going to be adding some like a watercolor effect using some mist. And this is a favorite technique that I like to do. I love to just use my mist and kind of make a little watercolor effects on the page. And so I'm going to be doing that around, and I'm doing it in like the yellows and oranges. And then you're going to see here in a bit I'm going to add some blue too, because I just wanted a contrasting color in that. And I have to be honest, I wasn't totally sure where I was going when I started this. I knew that I didn't even realize I was going to use a sunburst until I sat down and got my stencils out. And so I really am just taking this as I go, and just adding layers upon layers here. And that's typically how I work. I'm not a planner. I don't sit and plan out my layouts ahead of time. I don't plan. I just I start with my picture. That's always my first thing. And then I go from there, and I just just build upon layer. And so I don't really have anything planned for the most part when I start. And here we go. I'm adding a little bit of the teal blue to that, just because I wanted a little bit of contrasting color, especially since there's blue in the photo. And I just kind of wanted to create that center effect. I wanted a lot of watercolor effects and splatters there. So I'm working on that. And I hope you enjoyed our SNL design team 12 Days of Spring. Just ended. think, okay, this is coming out Saturday, so it just ended on Friday. And if you haven't checked it out, you can search YouTube. I had a couple of videos on there, and then everybody else on the team did too, with just some fun spring projects. So if you haven't had a chance to check those out, you may want to do that because there's some fun stuff in there. And so I'm just continuing to build upon, build some layers, and I've got my ink splatters and some of my watercolor effects there. And what I'm going to do now, this is another stencil I'm using. This one is from My Favorite Things. I think it's called Stargazer. And what I'm doing again is I'm using ink. And so I'm just putting another layer using some black ink and that sponge. And I'm just adding another layer of color there, and I'm using the stars. So I'm just going to be kind of sprinkling that around the page. And so that's another thing that this is really a great thing that I love to use stencils for, is really just using it with my ink pads and, you know, adding some layers of ink there. And so I'm going to go ahead and set that aside, and then I'm pulling out yet another stencil. This one is from Recollections. I got this one at Michael's. And I'm using some texture paste, and I'm going to create a layer of texture using the paste, and I'm just randomly applying that paste to different parts of the layout. And I usually just put it in about 3 different places for the most part, just randomly. And I really like it because it adds not only another layer of color, but it adds another layer of texture. So it really allows you to just keep building more interest in layer upon layer. And so there's that stencil that was used, and I'm going to be adding another one. I have another fun stencil that I just received in my hip kit for this past month, and it's that fun stencil there with the hearts on it. So again, I'm going to use the sponge with the ink. I'm using some of that orange ink, and I'm going to sprinkle some hearts all over the page. It's kind of almost like a confetti look, but I'm using the stencil and the ink pad, which I really love. Like I said, this is one of my favorite techniques to do because it just allows you to use those inks in different colors and use your stencils as well. You just want to be careful that your texture paste is dry before you use something over it, because I set this right in the middle of the texture paste, and thankfully you couldn't really tell. But so I'm going to continue here and just put some layers of those orange hearts just around the page. And I like, it is a, you know, kind of a busy background. I like that you can still see the sun rays through all of the extra layers that I'm adding. And it's just fun. I just like it. It's just kind of free form, and I just kind of go for it until I feel like there's enough and it looks okay to me. Okay, so I think that's going to pretty much wrap up my background now. And all of that was done using stencils and inks and mists. So you can see that you can get a lot of different use out of your stencils. You can, you know, lay them down. You can just spray. If you have some ink sprays, you can spray those on your stencil. You can ink them like I did, use them for texture paste. I've even seen people use them as patterns, like to trace and take a pen and actually draw a pattern out. So stencils are very versatile, and they can be used in a lot of different ways. And so what I'm doing right now is I wanted to, again, back that layout on a piece of paper. So I went into my stash and I found some October afternoon paper that I had that was kind of that blue color. And I just thought that that would go well. So I'm going to go ahead and use that as the background. And I'm just trimming up the edges of the layout so it'll have a little bit of a border around there, that blue border. Which worked out nice because the Heidi Swap stencil didn't go all the way to the edge, and that was probably going to end up bothering me. So I was able to trim the edge off, and so that the sun ray goes all the way to the edge of the page. And so I'm going to go ahead and tack down my layout to that background paper there. And like I said, I usually start from the left, and then I will roll it so that I can make sure that I get a good even coverage and get everything tacked down. And then I'm just going to eyeball it, make sure it's straight. And it was kind of bugging me because it was off a little bit, so I was going to take it off and kind of replace it, but it wasn't coming off all the way, so I kind of straightened it a little bit, but it probably wasn't really much to make a difference, but anyway. And so I'm going to go ahead and start building the layout now, and what I'm using there is the hip kit from January. I still have that, and I'm going through that, and I didn't really end up using a lot of it because the colors for me just weren't working. I did use the Serendipity tablet. That's the 6x6 papers that you pulled out there from the Dear Lizzie Serendipity pad, and so I'm using some of those. And then the sunglass card, I cut those out of a piece of paper from that kit. And let me see if I can find out which kit that was. I think that might have been, I think that was one of the Dear Lizzie papers, but I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'm sorry about that. I can't tell which one that was, but it came in the kit, and so I just cut the glasses out because I thought that was going to be perfect for my layout since I'm talking about shades. And I thought it was so cute. I wanted to do this, and my grandson has, like, if he has one pair of sunglasses, I am not kidding you, he must have 15. My daughter is just crazy about accessories for this child, and so he's got, I'm not kidding you, probably 15 pair of sunglasses, and he loves them, and he wears them. He's great. He leaves them on, and he just walks around with his shades on, and in the summertime or in the sun, and just he always looks like Mr. Cool with his shades. So I thought it was cute. I wanted to do this layout with this picture. And so the glass card there, the glasses worked out perfectly, even though right now I've got it upside down. I do catch it and turn it right side up, but I thought it was going to be perfect. And like I said, the hip kit that I was using didn't really have a lot of embellishments or colors that were going with this layout. So I pulled out one of my older Freckled Fawn kits, and this is from last year. I think it's from May or June. And I found these cute little outlined letters, the alphas, in that set, in that kit. So I decided to pull those out and use those. And so that's what I'm using for my title. And some of the embellishments from here on out are actually from the Freckled Fawn kit from last year. And so I'm going to go ahead and start adhering the papers and things down. And then I'm going to start putting that alpha down. And those letters, they're like a really thin, almost like a transparency, and they were sticking to everything, I think because of the static. And so I was having a hard time applying those. And I'm going to rush through this. I've cut a lot of it out because it was kind of time consuming and monotonous to watch the same thing. So I'm rushing it up for you and cutting a lot of that out where you don't have to watch me put every letter on. So there we go. I've got the title adhered. I'm using that arrow. That's from the Heidi Swap ephemera pack that came in the hip kit, and that is from September Skies ephemera. And then I am pulling in this tag that was in my stash, just that yellow tag. The Be Brave and Wild, that's from the kit as well. And I want to say that's also from the Heidi Swap September Skies ephemera pack. A lot of the ephemera was the clear transparency looking items. And that flare that I just added there to the picture, that was from the Freckled Fawn kit. And then I'm going to add a little bit of washi to the layout, and I was kind of having a hard time pulling it off there, and just pulled off in ripped strips, which I thought was actually kind of cool. So I've seen Missy Wooden do that a lot, where she actually takes her washi tape and like really just tears it in half and puts it on. And I was like, oh, that is really cool. I like that. So I'm going to try that. So I added the yellow, and now I'm going to add a little bit of black washi as well to kind of tie in the black stars and add a little definition there. And I couldn't use those white words, that they just weren't working out for me. So at this point, I decided to go ahead and just add some of those labels on. The labels are from the Freckled Fawn kit that I was using from last year, and I'm just doing a date stamp, and then I'm going to do a quick spot of journaling on one of the labels and actually apply that to the layout as well. I was trying to figure out a good place to put it and where I wanted to put that label. I decided to put the date up there on the left of the picture, and finally ended up just landing the label right there at the bottom left of the photo. Okay, and I added a little touch of dimensional adhesive behind the label to pop it up a little bit. And then I decided to just take a few more pattern pieces and just kind of tuck those in for some more layering effects. And that's going to pretty much wrap it up for you here. I've got some close-ups coming up. And again, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you get out your stencils and use those. And I hope this inspired you in some way. And if you did love it, please leave me a comment, leave me a thumbs up, and let me know that you liked it. And thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you back here soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.